Every game is a season into itself, every week. That Georgia game set the standard for what we wanted in big games on the road.
You've embarrassed a good football team in their own backyard and the whole world was watching. You know, that was something that gave you confidence in everything Coach Saban was preaching. Hey, I'm going to do what this guy tells me and I'm going to get the results I want.
After that, you kind of knew there was a showdown brewing with Florida, which was truly remarkable in terms of the buildup.
Well, the buzz was Tim Tebow. The things that he could do, the way he could run, the way he could bull his way, he'd have two defenders there and he'd convert the 7-10 split.
We had so many hurdles left to cross that by no means did I think we would be running up against Tim Tebow later in the year. It was, hey, we need to beat LSU in Death Valley.
Alabama remains undefeated and still #1.
We haven't beaten Auburn in 6 years. We need to beat Auburn first.
McElroy loads up, looks for Mays behind the defense, over the shoulder, touchdown, Alabama! A gorgeous play.
You know, this is something that we wanted for our seniors. We're glad, but we're also happy for all these fans that we have here.
More than a finally sense of relief, it was a sense of affirmation that we knew what we were doing was right.
Finally, those games started to come together and you start looking at it going, wow, we're kind of on a collision course here.
Yeah, an undefeated Alabama at #1, Florida at #2. It was one of the biggest buildups to a SEC title game that I can ever remember.
The 2008 SEC Championship game was a very intense game. Obviously, that was the year Tim Tebow gave the famous speech after they lost to Ole Miss.
You have never seen any player in the entire country play as hard as I will play the rest of the season, and you never see someone push the rest of the team as hard as I will push everybody the rest of the season, and you never see a team play harder than we will the rest of this season. God bless.
At the time, I didn't think it pertained to us because we had not lost and they had. It was a 1 versus 2 game. But make no mistake about it, we were the underdogs going into that football game.
As a coach, I never realized those things, whether we were favored or not favored, because the only thing that mattered was the end of the game and what's on that scoreboard at that time. So you're going to have to go out and kind of destroy their will and make them think, now, I don't know if we can win this one.
The undefeated and top-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide, right behind them, once beaten Florida Gators.
Everything in my entire career to that point of being a junior offensive lineman at Alabama had built up to that moment.
Nobody was nervous. There was no change. It was just that we're playing a good team. We got to go out and play well. We can't make mistakes, and we got to take advantage when they make mistakes. I don't think there was any more than that to it.
Here's the give. Coffee, big hole, 10. He's outside of the 5. He's tripped up. He goes forward. He is in. Touchdown! 2 plays, 18 yards. John Parker Wilson under center, gives to Ingram up the middle. Touchdown, Alabama!
I think we had the lead going into the fourth quarter, and Tim Tebow led some really great drives in that fourth quarter.
Dent strolls in. Touchdown, Florida.
And we didn't execute down the stretch.
Tebow back. Tebow fills it. It's caught. Touchdown. Riley Cooper. Roommate to roommate.
Yeah, it was a disappointing day. I mean, you'd gone through the season. You'd run the table, had big wins on big stages, and then all of a sudden, here comes Tim Tebow and the Gators.
And the guys took it really hard, particularly the seniors. But it just kind of reinforced our belief when we watched the tape that, going forward, we knew at that point, without any doubt, that we could play with anybody, and I think that could have easily been us.
Our mindsets and our hearts were set on being great. We're set on doing something great, and we continue to work, we continue to grind, we continue to chip away, we continue to push, and that senior year we had that breakthrough.
You have to establish somewhere, and that team did it. That established for Coach Saban. And for the program at the University of Alabama, that this is what we want to be.
It's funny looking back now because everybody just expects Alabama to be right back there, but it didn't happen by chance and it didn't happen by putting on a crimson jersey. It happened by hard work, and it happened by the mentality of players in that locker room understanding that we can't just show up and win games.
We want to be physical. We want to go out and be disciplined. We're going to play every down, like as Nick says, has a life and a history of its own. And we're going to make you know that when you played Alabama, you don't want to play us again.
You know, I think the thing that is lost because of the dynasty that has happened in Alabama was how hard it was to be the first team that had success and to really be thirsty again for success to come back and get it. And at the time, you know, rebuilding is not something that's a part of the Alabama program anymore. They don't rebuild, they just reload now. But we didn't know that back in 2008. We didn't know reloading was a thing. We thought that we might be going into a rebuilding year. Antoine Caldwell and Andre Smith, they were both leaving. So was John Parker Wilson, so was Glenn Coffey, so was a number of other playmakers, Rashad Johnson. Those guys were leaving. You know, those were our captains, those were our playmakers.
You know, you just know that you were a part of something bigger than yourself, something that's, you know, really a lot of people are proud of, because everybody recognizes that 2008, the kids that bought in then, they're the ones that established the Alabama today. They're the ones that, you know, made it where other kids want to come there.
Well, we had some young guys. They had the attitude, they had the ability. The only thing they did not have was time on the job. But once they got into the flow of it and saw that the standard had been set, and you're going to play to this standard that was set by that 2018, it took off from there.
That'll do it. Crimson Tide wins the national championship. The Bear would be proud.
When I watch the games now, I have a great sense of pride. You know what I mean? They always talk about the championship teams when you watch the TV and you watch the games, but I still have a sense of pride in myself because I knew how important that 2008 team was.
Those are the ones that fixed everything. I mean, they're the one that dug the dirt out, put the wood down, poured the concrete, laid the rebar. You know, right now you're just putting pretty glass out there.
I mean, you can't build any type of house, you can't build anything in this world without a foundation. And if the foundation isn't solid, then it's gonna fall. And I feel like we were the foundation. That's the most important piece of the legacy that's being built right now. Even though it may not be seen, it's the most important thing in this era of Coach Saban's time here.
After a hard day's work, you deserve a reward. Join us for our Sizzle, Swizzle, Swirl Happy Hour to start your evening right.